Disney's Disneyland.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are.
Each week as you enter this timeless land, one of these many worlds will open to you. Fantasyland, the happiest kingdom of them all. Tomorrowland, promise of things to come. Adventureland, the wonder world of nature's own realm. Frontierland, tall tales and true from the legendary past. Presenting this week from Frontierland, the Liberty Story.
Fantasy in our home and boys, let it grow where all can see. Feed it with our devotion, boys, always the liberty tree. It's the tall old tree and the strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty.
From time to time in Frontierland, we have presented stories from the frontiers of adventure and legend and history. But this program comes from another frontier, the frontier of human liberty. It's based on two books that have one thing in common, the story of liberty. This one by Robert Lawson is called Ben and Me. It's about a mouse that lived in Ben Franklin's hat. And later in the program, we'll get the mouse's view of our struggle for freedom. The liberties which we enjoy and take for granted didn't just happen. They had to be won. And even today, there are parts of the world where the fight for freedom is still going on. Behind our liberties, there's an interesting story, a heroic tale that goes back to the days of Robin Hood and the English tyrant, King John. In the story of liberty, the figure of Robin Hood remains an inspiration to all men who love freedom. Some say he was a real person, some say a legend. But whether legendary or real, his spirit caught the imagination of the people, and they told and retold his great deeds. They even made up ballads about him.
Now Robin Hood doth hunt the deer that in the woodlands prowse, but oft times shoots the sheriff's men by sorrowfulness.
Hearken! Our liege Lord Prince John has pronounced upon Robin Hood sentence of outlawry.
He robs the rich to aid the poor, a most unusual practice. But now that he has been outlawed, he needn't pay his taxes. Oh.
Robin Hood became a folk hero and a symbol around whom men could rally in their fight against oppression. The target for people's resentment was, of course, the tyrant King John, who believed he could levy tax upon tax to keep himself in power.
Our men will maintain themselves, gathering my new taxes. My lord, you have a kingly mind.
As with all tyrants, however, King John pushed his subjects too far. Finally, they stood together and forced King John to sign a document that is one of the most important of all time. This document, of course, was the Magna Carta, or Great Charter, the first guarantee of the rights of the individual. This was a great milestone on the long road to liberty. And out of this basic charter came what is known today as the Bill of Rights. The right to worship in one's own way, the right to free speech and press, the right to assemble, the right of privacy, the right to trial by jury, and all the rest. But before these rights were won, there were some other battles that had to be fought first. And this is a story told in Johnny Tremain by Esther Forbes. It's a book about a boy who lived in the time of Paul Revere, and it tells a vital chapter of the Liberty story. In fact, this book intrigued us so much that we not only made a Technicolor motion picture of it, we're also creating an entire new section in Disneyland the Park based upon it. As you know, Disneyland Park is a sort of a monument to the American way of life. But after reading Johnny Tremain, we realized we had overlooked one major item in the blueprint, a memorial to the freedoms that made it all possible. Well, we're busy putting it in. Right here off the town square. We're calling it Liberty Street. Everything's in the planning stage, of course, but our research has taken us back to a period we'd like to recreate as a reminder that the Liberty story is a story without end. In effect, Liberty Street will be Johnny Tremaine's Boston of about 1775. At this period in history, Boston was a bustling seaport with a commerce that came from the far corners of the earth. One of its important imports was tea, and this commonplace commodity was to play a strange part in the Liberty story, as Johnny Tremaine would soon discover.
I'm looking for Mr. Revere.
Johnny, I'm so glad it's over.
It was far from over, as Johnny Tremaine was to learn. In fact, it was only the beginning, only the kindling of the flame. But the spark of liberty had been touched to fire, and in time, its light would illuminate the world. Before we go into the following subject, I would like to read a letter we received some years ago from a Mr. Nathan J. Birdwell of Philadelphia, which has much to do with this particular story. Dear Mr. Disney, the past week, as I was sorting through an old trunk full of curios and novelties, which were left me by my great-uncle, I ran across a very remarkable set of books. While I'm sure they would be a real prize as a collector's item, I feel that they would still be more valuable to your studio, and I would like to present them to your library. Enclosed, you will find a news clipping which explains the unusual nature of the origin of the books. Sincerely, Nathan J. Birdwell. Now, the clipping, dateline Philadelphia, April 8, 1894. Strange discovery in church ruins. The raising of the old church on 2nd Street came to a sudden halt yesterday when workers discovered a tiny room 18 inches square in the old brick foundation. The room contained various small articles of furniture of the colonial period, and on the shelf of a secretary desk was a set of very small books. These books were examined by scientists, historians, and librarians who arrived at one conclusion. Incredible as it might seem, that the books were written and published by a mouse. We are always interested in new and unusual animal books. So naturally, we were delighted with this unique addition to our library, for they are the only books we have which were written by a mouse. Despite their size, these tiny volumes contain a surprising amount of information, both scientific and historical. The first volume is titled My Family and Me, which is a family history of the author Amos Mouse, whose picture is on the first page. And here is an introduction in Amos's own words.
The biographies contained in this book were based on diaries, manuscripts, and family records handed down through some 70 generations of mice, and to the best of my knowledge are completely authentic. Amos Mouse, historian, inventor, printer, and bookbinder. Now, let's see, the earliest record of my family dates back to 1568. On July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was adopted by Congress. I was very proud to have had a small part in the creation of this great document.